On the first date, what were some immediate red flags that made you not go on a second date? He was about 10 years older than his pictures, he didn't stop twitching the entire time, and he kept pressuring me to go back to his place. I noped the F out of there. Sounds like meth. I went out for drinks with a guy who monologued the entire time. Could barely get a word in. The worst. Went out on a date with a guy like that with the added bonus of him referring to himself in the third person. It was effing weird. She was still married and said she just wanted to know if she'd be able to still get dates if they split up. Worst date ever. He tried to change my order with the waitress because I didn't order what he'd recommended. Oh my God, I came here to say this exact same thing. He suggested something, but I wasn't feeling it. I ordered, and he grabbed the waitress as she tried to walk away and said, "No, she'll have XYZ instead, thanks." And let her go, and that was that. It didn't even occur to him that she wouldn't listen or that I'd be pissed. Walked right out of the restaurant. He smelled bad. We were outside walking along an ocean break wall and I could smell him. Yuck. He told me he had worms. Not in a casting, fishing, or terrarium kind of way. Full on internal parasites. Went out with a girl who only talked about her ex-husband and his corn addiction. After listening for 2 hours about his Asian corn collection, I noped out of there hard. He stared at his phone the whole time. Then after we parted, he sent a text complimenting my ass and then said we should go out again. And they say chivalry is dead. Date went fine, but on drive back he got into a road rage. He started blasting the red lights and speeding and yelling. I told him that I'm not putting my life in danger over a hissy fit from a grown-ass man. Nope. Met up with this guy from Tinder. After talking for a bit and having a coffee, he was like, "Want to meet my kid?" I felt totally put on the spot, and although I was clearly uncomfortable, I panicked and said I would. We went back to his place and I met the kid. She was actually pretty cool. Then he sent her off to bed and proceeded to tell me that the mother of his child randomly dropped dead in their kitchen one day, and now his kid didn't have a mom. I looked around his place and there were pictures of said dead mom everywhere. I told him it was getting late and I was going to get going. Before I left, he asked if he could stroke my stomach and pinch my ass. It was a very specific and super odd request. I said no. The next day he sent me a text asking me if I would babysit his kid. Not even asking me on a second date. Just asking for childcare. He brought his 2-year-old along on our date. He then informed me he would be okay with me going out and partying for maybe 1 more year to get it out of my system, but after that he expected me to settle down. Then went on a strange rant about how important it is for women to have their fun before becoming moms so they are ready to be homemakers. I was 19 and also was not aware he even had a kid beforehand. I went on a date with a guy who called himself a mama's boy and said no woman would ever compare to his mother. There was no second date, and despite how many times I turned him down and said I wasn't interested, he kept calling and texting me for 2 years until I changed my number. At dinner, he shared with me that he didn't believe in washing his hands after going to the bathroom. As long as toilet paper was used effectively, hand washing was obsolete. He said all of this while licking his fingers and digging into a shared basket of appetizers. I was disgusted. LOL. Went out with a girl, we hit it off well to the point that things heated up and I spent the night at her place, only to wake up to an empty house and no clothes. She had taken all of my clothes, including my underwear, with her to work. It made me cancel the first date we had planned. I met a guy on a dating site and he asked me on a date and I agreed. Later, I got a call from work saying a package had been delivered. It was a huge bouquet of flowers. I was so confused. I asked him if he had sent them and he said I did. You said you had a bad day last Friday, so I wanted to make this Friday a good one for you. Normally, I would absolutely love this gesture and be over the moon with this. The only problem is that I never told him where I worked and I had told him I lived in a large city an hour away to be on the safe side. So not only did he find my true town, but also found out where I had worked. Instant red flag and made me terrified. Another great one, I went on a date with a Korean American guy in college. It was really lovely. until his mother called during our coffee date. She asked him what my name was and he told her, first and last. He got a sad look on his face and stood up, apologizing profusely for wasting my time. He said, "I am so sorry, I should have had her look you up before the date." Super confused, I looked at him and asked, "What are you talking about?" Apparently, he didn't realize my name was Japanese American. I am biracial but white passing, and his mother saw my Facebook profile picture. At the time was me and my family at the Obon Festival hosted by the Buddhist Temple and Japanese American Society in my city. So he left the date because his mommy told him he couldn't date a Japanese girl. Pulled out a loaded gun in my car to try and impress me. Whoa. That's really more of a third date thing. He called the waitress an effing stupid C-word for forgetting that he wanted his shot chilled. She and I were sitting in a club when a guy she knew walked by and waved. He said, "Hi, Kate. Haven't seen you in a while," and walked on. She yelled after him, "Yeah, but do you think about me when you jack off?" The whole club came to a record scratch halt and stared at her. Then, fearing the people on the street out front hadn't heard her, she repeated, I said, "Do you think about me when you jack off?" I made it an early night, met a stranger at the grocery store, and he asked me out for dinner. Dinner didn't go very well. He spent most of the date insulting me for being a vegetarian, and at the end of the night when we were walking back to our cars and saying bye, he asked if he could have a kiss. I said no. He asked again. I said no. He said, "How about a peck on the cheek?" So I go to do that and he turns and kisses my mouth quickly. Definitely knew there would be no second date after that. I ignored all future texts. His last one said, "Why does this always happen to me?" We met up at his place. He was making dinner for me. We were chatting on the couch when he stood up to excuse himself to the restroom. As he was walking away, he turned and mentioned the cameras all over his home, so don't steal anything. Then he pointed to a stack of papers on an end table. I believe in honesty. That's my arrest record. Everything is right there. He went on his way. I considered leaving right then, but didn't. I did pick up that stack of papers. Holy shit. His arrest record was several pages long and spanned 3 states. Most of the arrests were for domestic violence. There were a couple involving weapons, some minor drug charges, and assault charges. He returned and, thank God, my phone rang. I answered it even though I didn't recognize the number, had no idea who it was. I made like it was one of my daughters and she needed to be picked up from somewhere immediately. I'll never know who was actually on the other end of that call, but I left this guy's home and never looked back. I will admit I casually ignored some red flags before our date. But the camera tale, I don't believe for a minute he had cameras everywhere, and the criminal history wouldn't allow me to ignore what I already felt. Explained everything to me like I had just arrived on the planet, explained how exchange rates work, explained how package holidays work, explained parking, explained that it's cheaper to have roommates. Learned so much LOL. Dude spent the whole date talking about how he used to sell cocaine. Made multiple comments about my appearance. To be fair, they were positive, but delivered in a very creepy and shallow way. He also told me about how he was arrested in front of his old apartment and then evicted. After I told him I did not wish to go on a second date, his response was, "Okay, but first I really want to F your brains out." This was a first date and I was 19. Some comments include, "I bet you work out, I bet you look at the mirror and just think damn, etc. If I were you, I'd check myself out all the time." Met a guy on an app. Talked for a while. Met up for drinks and I was asking him about his Dexter tattoo. He had Michael C. Hall's face on his shoulder, and he said that what he liked most about Dexter was that he hid his true identity. Needless to say, I never saw him again. For a second there I thought he had a Dexter's Laboratory tattoo. Now that would have been a green flag. Old worn out t-shirt. Sweaty. Brought his dog along. The dog wouldn't look at me when I tried to make friends, only looked at his master. He was a cell phone tower tech. Decided he could psychoanalyze me. Told me I'm afraid of men, despite me meeting him in a state park. Told me he's tired of having steak dinners and ice cream and still not getting a relationship out of it, so from now on, he's going for sex first. Told me I have a lot to think about. Nope, dude, didn't have to think it over at all. His profile said he didn't like organized religion. On our date, he told me he belonged to some religious faith following a guru, Osho, in India. And he went to India a couple of times. Then he told me his wife passed away 6 weeks ago. He asked if he could call me. I said yes, thinking you can call, I'm not going to answer. He never called, LOL. He turned up 30 minutes late and was hammered. Drunk, then informed me that he drove to the date, which was a 20-minute drive from where he had been. I told her I had a dog. She said, oh neat. What breed? I told her, Siberian Husky. Oh. A big dog. At least she'll die young so you can get a puppy again soon. Dude came in and first thing off the bat said he recognized me from my acne scars. They're not that bad, in fact very minor. We moved to a coffee shop and halfway through coffee arriving suddenly just jumped out the window, low large windows so easily done, and legged it up the street. I sat there in literal disbelief for ages, unsure if I should pay the coffee tab or what even happened. He came back. Apparently, he recognized his favorite D-grade radio celebrity walking past and just had to go and tell them how much he loves them. He was raving about how exciting this was while I sat there dumbfounded. Not my weirdest first date, sadly. Went on a date with a girl who worked at a well-known local art museum. Talked about art in the most technical, plain, boring, dry terms imaginable, and I could barely follow along. Asked questions and was made to feel like an idiot. Tried to talk about art, which I love, and was again treated like an idiot. No second date. The guy wouldn't stop talking about Jesus, even after I told him I'm an atheist. I tried changing the topic a handful of times, but he always brought it back to Jesus. I felt like he was practicing a Sunday school lesson on me, not going on a first date. So strange. It's a tie between the guy who had an empty fifth of gin bottle poking out from under front seat, or the guy who growled when I ordered a coffee, just drink from mine. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Also check out our other videos and have an amazing day.